morning and welcome back. You're watching World Talks. I'm Saria Strzemska. Moldova's President Maia Sandu won re-election on Sunday, keeping her country on a path towards the EU, despite massive Russian interference in the vote. With most votes counted, Sandu had won 55%, and in a late-night speech, she promised to be the president for all Moldovans. To discuss the outcome as well as what awaits Moldova in the future, I am joined here this morning by Eusebiu Slavitescu, former Romanian diplomat. Good morning, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
So, late last night, on the date of the vote, the president's national security advisor spoke about massive interference on the Russian side. What evidence do we have of this?
Oh, at this point, at least for 155,000, especially in the first round, there is extensive evidence of voting buyout, travel voters from one station, from one polling to another. As we have seen yesterday, lots of planes flying from Russia, Turkey to Baku to Minsk in order to bring these voters to vote for the pro-Russian candidate. And election interference in a general sense that has been started a long time ago by Russia through its hybrid war, not only in Moldova, especially in Moldova, but we have seen last weekend in Georgia. Russia has interfered hugely and massively. Basically, yesterday we had a confrontation of diasporas. The West diaspora, which is voted massively pro-Maia Sandu, the pro-European Union candidate, and the Russian diaspora in Minsk, in Moscow, especially in Moscow, and different locations.
Right. So, I mean, one could say that now Moldovans can, sigh a sigh of relief, but I mean, actually, probably they can't because there's a parliamentary vote in July of next year, and Maia Sandu's party is probably not likely to maintain a majority. What's your take on that?
I was going to refer to that. The real stake here for Russia isn't these elections, although would have been nice for them, because Maia Sandu, the presidential candidate who just won, has a pretty limited mandate to exercise. Next election, the next year for the legislative election, that's where the real stakes are. And at this moment, Maia's party, PAS, isn't doing very well. So I think Maia has 1 or 2 days to open the bottle of champagne in Chisinau, and then it really starts to get to working if she wants to have a second mandate with a second government that can fully support her policies.
Right, and can we take a closer look at what parties there are in Moldova, apart from the Action and Solidarity Party, that is Maia Sandu's party, and which ones are likely to gain momentum?
Well, at this moment, I would say the Socialist Party fully funded and supported by Russia, obviously, has the first chance. We have seen it yesterday. If it wouldn't have been for the diaspora in European capitals, Maia Sandu wouldn't have won the vote. We've seen that already. Russia still has a huge influence and is ready to throw millions of dollars, lies, intimidation, voter buyouts, every single method that could bring it closer to Russia, they would just do it. And again, it is enough to look at the last weekend in Georgia. Different methods. In Georgia, it worked. In Moldova, it didn't work. But we're just not there yet.
Right. So what is happening with the Shore Party? Because it was banned, but then people who belong to this party or used to belong to this party were able to run in the presidential election. So what is happening in this realm? And of course, the party is associated with Ilan Shore, the fugitive Moldovan businessman who now lives in Israel.
Well, to be very honest with you, I cannot get into the very small details. All I know is that we have this candidate is living in Israel, protected by Israel for some reason, and who's hugely influencing election voters buyout. But I honestly, I haven't been really into details in this regard.
Okay, so let's take a look at Moldova's path towards the EU, right? Because in October, the EU has allotted this additional funding, which is 1.8 billion euro for the Reform and Growth Facility for the 2025-2027. So the EU is trying to help Moldova. Recently, there was also a report published by the European Commission pertaining to this enlargement. So how do you view chances, Moldova's chances of, sort of promptly proceeding on the path to join the EU? And will Maia Sandu and her party have enough time before the July's vote?
I would say pretty high chances of getting, of starting. It's a process that already started last year. Moldova is very lucky to have very good friends within the European Union, and one of them is Romania, who has lobbied immensely in Brussels, in DC, pretty much everywhere for years on behalf of Moldova. With the current government and especially with the new mandate, presidential mandate, I don't see any other reason for Moldova not to get a quick way within the EU, not to mention, and strictly talking about, procedures, regulations, norms, and all of that. Moldova, the current government, is doing a pretty good job of implementing those recommendations coming from the European Union. I'm pretty confident this will continue this way. Again, legislative elections next year, that could put a stop to it, but I'm confident that Maia will find a way to go through that. But I just wanted to come back a little bit to, if you allow me, to the elections yesterday. What is the real stake here? Mm-hmm. Because Moldova doesn't have much energy, isn't a very rich country. So why is Putin so willing to invest almost $100 million to steal this election or to influence these elections? And one of the reasons is that if Moldova comes under Russia's influence, it can be used as a launching attacks base from Moldova to Ukraine. These are the real stake of yesterday's Russian interference, and especially the stakes for the next year's elections. We already know Russia has a few thousand soldiers stationed in Transnistria. One of the reasons why Ukraine hasn't acted to clear that area up is because Moldova didn't want it so far. But the real stake here is another place for Russia to launch attacks into Ukraine. And we all know that Odessa is something that the Russians really, really want and haven't been able to get it so far.
Well, this is a very interesting point. So what kind of strategy the Russians will pursue now? I mean, in your view, what can they do, starting from here, given that they did not manage to sway the vote?
So they will be continuing doing what they've done yesterday, what they have done 2 weeks ago, what they have done last weekend in Georgia, and they will also Moldova, Georgia. These are testing grounds for Russia hybrid war. They are perfecting their methods, and their methods are going to become even more brutal. The intimidation, the lies, the disinformation. All of it. What Russia has been done not only since 2014, but long before that. We in the West, or some of our parties in the West, were pretty naive to think the war started in 2022, but that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm. And just sort of looking at Moldova and Georgia from a comparative perspective, why did Russia succeed in Georgia? I think we can say that, right? I mean, if you will, and not in Moldova. What are the differences between the two countries and sort of different outcomes, right? I mean, we have here.
Well, for one, Moldova has a pro-EU government, and what they have done during this, with the policies and everything, goes towards the European Union. Whereas in Georgia, the current government, the last government and probably the new government is a pro-Russian government, without a question. Also, Maia Sandu has had the luck that Georgia maybe doesn't have it to this extent, as I was saying earlier, to have really many friends in the EU. France is pushing crazy to get Moldova in the EU. Germany and also Romania still remains the first ally, the first friend, the best friend, if I can put it that way, in the EU. Romania has massively lobbied for Moldova. Not only lobbied, but helped not only with money, but with financials, with military trainings, with training on resilience, societal resilience. Pretty much everywhere that you could have done, Romania is hugely implicated in this.
I was going to ask you about Romania, since you're a former Romanian diplomat. So what lessons from Romania could countries like Moldova and Georgia, other countries that are still in the pipeline to join the EU, take from countries like Romania and perhaps Bulgaria as well, right? I mean,
actually, the person who conducted all the government reform, government policy in Romania before 2007, that helped Romania get into the EU, is now actually working for the Moldovan government, trying to help the Moldovan government putting all those requirements from the EU, putting in place. And it's actually working very well. So there's a massive know-how transfer from Bucharest to Chișinău. It's been happening for a couple of years, to be honest. I've been to Chișinău when I was working in MFA, and lots of ministers, they are going there pretty much every month.
Right, and just sort of taking a short look at Georgia again, do you think that Georgia is a lost case, or can what has unfolded, can it be reversed, and can it, sort of come back? I
certainly hope it's not a lost cause. From my information, European integration is a national project. In Georgia, it's been there in the constitution. They actually put it for some years. The last election have been, hugely stalled. I don't think anyone needs any more proofs to that. I'm not sure exactly which way to go. I certainly don't hope Georgia is lost. We've seen those massive protests, those hundreds of thousands of people in the streets taking the European flag. I hope, I'm not sure exactly which way this is going to go. There's a sort of a crisis, a political constitutional crisis with the current government, the current president, not recognizing the elections. So I'm really curious to see where this is all heading, but I'm certainly hoping this is not a lost cause for them.
Right, and just sort of my last question to round up our talk. It seems, we're assuming sort of like that once a country joins the EU, there's no more Russian meddling. However, it continues, right? So sort of looking at Romania and perhaps other countries from the former Soviet bloc, what advice, what shall we be looking for if we want to identify Russian meddling, and how shall we protect ourselves? And of course, various countries, right, are already in the EU.
Oh, we do have extensive experience with Russia, with Russian interference in Romania, and especially after EU integration. Russia won't come and tell you Russia is good, the EU is bad. It's enough for Russia to tell you that EU isn't that good. This is what it do. Long before 2007, but especially 2007, and especially in the past years, Russia is pushing for a hybrid war, not just in Romania. The entire region. We have presidential election in a couple of weeks in Romania, and at least two candidates are pro-Russians. So disinformation is on high alert, not only coming from exterior, but also from interior, from inside of Romania. But it's a huge phenomenon. It doesn't stop. We have lots of politicians going to the Russian embassies. We still are fighting with this. I'd say we have gotten better in pushing out this Russian narrative, but there's still a lot to do, especially that we haven't, the region, the European Union, up until very recently, we really didn't take it seriously, this whole Russia threat.
Right, but we do have to stay vigilant. Eusebiu Slavitescu, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.